Closing numbers, Dow Jones ended the day 1,026 higher. Oh, well, I'm sorry, we're showing 868 there. Maybe I'm a little slow with I think it was 1,016. I could be wrong. S&P at 129, 429 for the NASDAQ. But again, I digress if I'm wrong. But all in all, a very, very strong day. A couple of big name stocks also doing well. Tesla up $11 a share. Pretty darn good. Nvidia up $2. Apple up $6.50 a share. Very, very strong day across the markets. A little bit of relief. Everyone's sighing a bit of relief. All right, Democrats. Let's go to the Democrats. Love talking about the Democrats. I guess they're struggling, to stay relevant. I think that's fair to say. Their poll numbers are in the tank. They're garbage. And they have control of absolutely nothing. Not the House, not the Senate, certainly not the White House, not even their own mouth. This is David Hogg. Remember that guy, that little Weasley guy with nothing going on between his ears? Joined Jen Psaki for what he called a break the glass moment. This young guy thinks he knows what he's talking about. Watch.
They said you can't do this. Are you going to still?
This is a break the glass moment.
So meaning if they tell you can't do this, you're going to leave your vice chair job?
Ultimately, if they decide to remove me, I have no control over that. I'm going to do everything in I got elected to this position to fight to win back our young people and make sure that across the board with every single demographic pretty much except the elderly and the highly educated, we lost margins this past election cycle. This is a major crisis for our party right now, and it needs to be met with the ferocity it deserves so that we're able to win back those young people, win back the margins that we lost with a lot of those demographics.
So remember David Hogg, right? He was one of the kids who survived Parkland, the mass shooting in Parkland. Somehow is now the vice chair of the DNC. Those guys are so screwed. Democrats are so screwed. That's all they got going on. We've been keeping a close eye on El Salvador as Democrats continue to embarrass themselves over that illegal gang banger who came over here, who Trump's trying to get rid of, but I don't know, for some reason judges want to bring him back here. Congressman Maxwell Frost gave a great update about Trump's cooperation with their plans. Listen to this.
The Supreme Court decision has come down to say you need to facilitate the return of this man back to the United States so he can go through due process. And the administration is saying, no, we're not going to do it. In fact, we just had a meeting earlier today with the embassy. We left that meeting with absolutely zero indication that this administration has is going to facilitate or wants to facilitate the return of Brego Garcia back to the United States so he can go through due process. But we got to be clear, this isn't just about him. This is also about every single person in the United States. The Constitution applies to all people in our country. Due process applies to all people in our country. It's one of the things that sets our country apart from other places across the entire world.
Well, let me explain something to that young man right there. Perhaps due process applies to all people, but once you break the law coming into the country, once your wife calls the cops on you twice to get you arrested for beating the crap out of her, and then once a court decides that you are part of MS-13, you've lost your right to due process in this country. Some would say, I would say you never had a right to due process, but there are others, like my friend Chris Cuomo on the left, who say everyone has a right to due process. Perhaps, maybe, but when you do things like this guy did, Abrego Garcia did, you lost your right to due process. I think the court will hand it. Again, the Supreme Court said stop. It didn't say you're not going to do it, Trump. It said pause. It didn't say don't do it, don't deport. It just said hold on, let's have a discussion about whether people like these deserve due process or not. Elizabeth Warren, Pocahontas, remember her, just like many other Dems, knowingly covered up Joe Biden's rapid mental decline while he was in office. She did it. She lies about it. But one of my favorite clips of 2025 to date, Lizzie Warren, Pocahontas, got absolutely smoked for her part in the scheme. You got to see this.
Do you regret saying that President Biden had a mental acuity? He had a sharpness to him. You said that up until July of last year.
I said what I believe to be true.
And you think he was as sharp as you?
I said I had not seen decline. And I hadn't at that point.
You did not see any decline from 2024 Joe Biden to 2021 Joe Biden?
Not when I said that. You know, the thing is, he was sharp. He was on his feet. I saw him. Live event. I had meetings with him a couple of times.
Senator, on his feet is not praise. He can speak in sentences is not praise.
All right, fair enough, fair enough. Look, the question is, what are we going to do now?
Okay.
Why should we listen to anything that woman says? She said she was Native American, Indian. She wasn't. She lied. She did it so that she could get some sort of accolades for being, I don't know, woke. I have no idea. I think she was trying to actually get a job as a teacher somewhere, but she lied. I mean, U.S. Senator lying like that. And then to say that, well, he was on his feet, meaning Joe Biden was capable to run the country. What an ass. Sorry, Pocahontas, you're an ass. Here's the latest illegal alien murder in Maryland. Yet, Chris Van Hollen, the senator, is using money from our wallets to advocate for these bloodthirsty monsters.
Now, this is the father of her children, Casey Barrera Rosa. He's charged with murder, and he's currently in ISIS custody. And we also have this mugshot of his uncle. Authorities charge Rolvin Barrera with being an accessory to the crime. A spokesperson for the Charles County Sheriff's Office says the suspect was methodical in hiding this woman's body, burying her deep, and using old dirt to conceal the hole.
Upon discovering her body, which was wrapped in a blanket and again buried about 5 feet below the ground, it was a moment of relief for the detectives that they were able to tell her family, we have found her.
So when we first reported this, authorities told us that they found fraudulent immigration documents for Barrera Rosa and confirmed he was in the U.S. illegally.
So for these lefties who are saying, Abrego Garcia, not those two murderers right there, Abrego Garcia deserves due process. BS. I almost said the bad word, but BS. These people are thugs, they're criminals, they're rapists, they're murderers. Send them back. I think we can pull their right to due process. They're not even American citizens, for God's sake. If they're American citizens, of course, yeah, you have that right. It's in the Constitution. I'm not sure the Constitution spells that out. I'm not. And if it does, I would think that maybe the Trump administration, what they're doing will be a challenge. It's not in the Constitution. It may have been a legal ruling at some point down the road, down our history, but there's always a good challenge to it. And I think the Supreme Court didn't say no, they just said pause, let's have a conversation. Hopefully they get it right. Speaking of Chris Van Hollen, the guy who loves gang members and murderers, he was asked on CNN about his discussions with Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Van Hollen was obviously he's done everything he can to tie his reputation to that man, idiotically. I don't know why he would do that. But did he even bother to ask this illegal gang member if he was affiliated with MS-13?
But you told my colleague Dana Bash yesterday that you did not ask Abrego Garcia whether or not he's actually in MS-13. You said you know what his answer is. But how do you know if you did not ask him?
Well, because I know what he's said many times in court, and that's the proper forum for debating this.
Okay, in fact, two courts, Chris Van Hollen, have decided that he was, in fact, a gang banger. So you're full of it. You're full of crap. And good luck to you, Senator. If this is what you're tying your hopes to be, I don't know, continue as a senator or hopes for higher office, you're going to bring thugs, criminal aliens back into the country. See how that works out. Nancy Mace, Congresswoman from South Carolina, Republican, continues to not give a rat's butt about when trans lunatics crawl out of the storm drains they came to attack her. Watch this amazing exchange and pay particular attention to the guy's voice in the hat.
Does your husband call you babe? I'm not married. Okay, so even better. I don't care. Okay, so I would like for you to apologize, but he is derogatory and second of all. Is tranny derogatory to you?
Well, yeah. Of course.
Yeah, tranny. If that's derogatory,
I gotta love that, right? It's just like a nice little boy. And then when Mace calls him out, he's like, yeah, all right, I'm done. I'm gonna take my plant and go home. Awesome. Love watching CNN get caught up in their own lies. Back in June of last year, Joe Biden was reportedly locked down at Camp David, vigorously preparing for his debate with Trump. Well, wouldn't you know, here a year later, and an entirely new story has emerged, but check it out.
President Biden has spent days locked in intense preparation, surrounded by his closest advisors at Camp David. And our sources are telling us tonight that full mock debates are underway at the podium, under the lights. He's even watching tape to know exactly what he's going to see when he steps up to that lectern. His team shot a video during a walkthrough of the CNN studio. And as I reported while covering him at the White House, when Biden prepares, he does so incredibly intensively.
So just how worried were Biden aides before the former president's disastrous debate last summer? According to Ron Klain, his chief of staff, his concerns could not be overstated. At his first meeting with Biden for debate prep, quote, Klain was startled. He'd never seen Biden so exhausted and so out of it. Biden was unaware of what was happening in his own campaign. Halfway through the session, the president excused himself and went off to sit by the pool. The part about the pool, he went off, this is in the middle of debate prep, went off to the pool and he took a nap.
Can I get Caitlin Collins back on to explain that part where when Biden studies, he really goes at it? Well, he went to the pool to eat some ice cream, you nut job. Before we head to break, I want to remind you all about my podcast YouTube page, which are both updated daily. Sure, you can watch this show, but we put a ton of other content up there. And you can watch any of that anytime, anywhere, but you must subscribe. Subscribe on YouTube. Also subscribe Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, folks, we'll be back in 2.5 minutes. Now, look at that shot. The ISS, the International Space Station. Now, the reason why we're putting up there, well, first of all, Mad Dog thought it'd be cool because it's Earth Day, so we take a shot of the Earth from the ISS. But I was also watching the rocket launch the other night, Sunday night, Monday morning, 4:15 in the morning. And the rocket, that the joint venture between NASA and SpaceX, the capsule is hooking into the ISS, the International Space Station, as we speak. Today's Tuesday. It's going to spend a couple of days down there and head back down to Earth. So that's a really, really cool shot. Good job, Bad Dog. Tesla earnings just came out during the break. Disappointing. They're calling them disappointing earnings, missed by $2 billion on the revenue, but the stock in after hours is up. Who'd have thunk about that? You know why? Because they've been pounded Tesla into the ground. It went from $470 a share to $225. All right, folks, happy Earth Day, by the way, today. Here to set the mood is Nobel Peace Prize winner and Academy Award winner for no reason at all, obviously, Al Gore. So warm and fuzzy, isn't he?
Our Constitution, written by our founders, is intended to protect us against a threat identical to Donald Trump, someone who seeks power at all costs to get more power.
So warm and fuzzy. Let's see, Al Gore says that President Trump and his administration is blurring the lines between truth and lies and, quote, trying to create their own preferred version of reality in a way similar to Adolf Hitler's Nazi party in the 1930s and 40s. And I'm quoting Al Gore there. Wow, referring to Trump as Hitler and Nazis as us. Their own preferred version of reality, he says. You don't like it? Well, Al Gore says this.
There is a 75% chance that the entire North Polar ice cap during some of the summer months could be completely ice-free within the next 5 to 7 years.
Oh, there's nothing at all there. Just Al Gore saying in 2009, by the way, over 15 years ago, mind you, that the polar ice caps would be gone in 5 to 7 years. Hell, they're still there, my friend. Sounds kind of like your preferred version of reality, Al, just saying. Well, it's Earth Day and Climate Week, so nothing like bringing Nazis into the equation, right? Democrats, will they ever learn? Maybe not. Desperation time for Democrats means it's time to dip into their playbook. We know the drill, right? Number one, lie and deflect, maybe bring in a Nazi reference, call Trump a rapist, sprinkle in some defamation and deflect their own crimes into President Trump and onto President Trump and his administration, frankly, all of MAGA. And then there's number two, lawfare and violence, threaten assassination, light cars on fire, incite violence in others, spray paint a Tesla dealership in Manhattan, just a bunch of fun stuff like that. And then there's number three, rebranding and cover-up. That one's interesting because it means changing the meaning of words or finding new words or taglines to distract from how awful the Democrat Party really is, like calling pedophiles minor attracted persons, or calling an illegal gang member Maryland man, or calling a Democrat a normal, insane person. And the rebranding and cover-ups are carried out with a tender and loving assist from mainstream media, right? The Democrat Party is an unreal thing to behold right now. This is their loudest mouthpiece.
To see happen on my birthday is for Elon to be taken down. Yes. I think that you punch. I think you punch. I think you're okay with you okay with punching. He started to punch a little harder. But like, it's Ted Cruz. I mean, like, this dude has to be knocked over the head. Y'all know we got Governor Hot Wheels down there. Come on now.
Congresswoman Crockett. Congresswoman Crockett, you were recently on a Tesla takedown call calling for violence on the 29th. Would you like to clarify your comments?
As you can see.
Congresswoman, will you condone violence?
Well, if that's their top mouthpiece, well, here's the runner-up.
Also, you know, the other way I think you can think about it is that we are, you know, perhaps we are in the downfall of the broken way. This was not built to last. Inequity, injustice is not built to last. It lasts a long time. It could last hundreds of years, but ultimately it crumbles into this, you know, a small cohort of incompetent people that create damage. And from that, something new can spring. And so maybe something is declining right now, but maybe it deserves to decline.
And that AOC also their potential front runner in 2028 right now, which is difficult to fathom, but yes, bring it on. And then they have this sniveling young brat vying for the top place in the Democrat Party.
For them, because we go out there as Democrats all the time and say democracy is the most important thing. We have to defend democracy. We fail to acknowledge that this generation, democracy is what put us through school shooter drills and school shootings. It's what's put us through the climate crisis and so much more. What we have to do is prove that democracy matters by standing up to the special interests that are killing the American dream and making our young people lose faith, not only in our party, but the future of this country.
Democracy. Say democracy again, hog. No matter how many times you say democracy, it won't make us forget that your party covered up for the big guy's dementia. Your party incites violence daily. Your party supports terrorists and violent gang members. Your party forced babies to wear face masks and left old people to die without their families. We have Democrat senators and congressional members, elected Americans clamoring and clawing and drooling their way to El Salvador for media attention to rescue an illegal alien domestic abuser gang member, bring him back to the United States in order just to stick it to Trump. All while Americans continue to be killed. That's right, killed by illegal alien gang members. And they just don't care. They're running with it. That's that. So that makes this little rebranding effort by the New York Times, another complicit leftist propaganda machine, all the more special and obvious. Red, desperate. This headline alone is laughable. What is dark? Well, Democrats are trying out a new attitude. It's provocative, edgy, and perilously towing the line of not being too offensive. Dark woke. Provocative, edgy, like flying down to El Salvador to romance, drink tequila with an illegal gang member over some margaritas, not being too offensive. They've met Jasmine Crockett, have they? Cory Booker, 25-hour Cory Booker, peeing his own pants. Jamie loves gangbangers, Raskin. Adam Shifty Schiff. And if you thought the headline was enough, it's then outdone by the very first line of the seeming parody of a story. Quoting, there was a time last summer when the Democratic Party was cool. I just don't remember that. Seriously, Kamala Harris running for president with a rapper twerking for her for millions of dollars on stage. That was cool. Tampon Tim Walz in his stolen valor hat, the most unlikable human being on the planet. Cool, really? New York Times? But going back to this dark woke thing, are they kidding us? Are they really kidding us? See what they did there, right? Woke is what got this party in trouble. Woke is what broke them, ruined them, lost them and lost their votes. So now it's dark woke. Let's show this again. New York Times, seriously, dark woke is a headline with Jasmine Crockett as the face of it, a new form of combative rhetoric that aims to regain voters who've been influenced by President Trump's aggressive political style, because the woke were too subtle before, because referring to Americans who vote for Trump as garbage, remember that, Joe Biden, as Nazis, remember that, Al Gore, racist, white supremacist, stupid. That wasn't aggressive enough for them. So Democrats now think they lost because they weren't cool enough. And now being bitchy makes them cool. The Democrats are clearly doubling down on stupid. And this would be hilarious if it wasn't so dangerous, because dark woke translates directly to the increase of the left's social media threats of violence. Even Jasmine Crockett threatening punching, remember? Physical acts of violence, destroying private property, and thinking assassinating the president would be super cool. Dark woke. They come out swinging with their Nazi BS and their calls for violence and takedowns, and they think calling it dark woke and giving it a quirky name and celebrating it is the right way to go. They think that calling for President Trump's head on a stick is the same as some mean tweets that hurt some snowflakes' feelings. President Trump and his administration are fighting for the soul of America while they rebrand and send in the dregs of our society to their party to speak to them while they fight for violent gang members. It's so bad. It's a scramble to make up new ways to get back into power instead of looking inward, Democrats. They're jumping headfirst into insanity. And folks, dark woke is what they're going with. This is their best version of how the left got its groove back. Pathetic is what it is. Be more combative, they say. That's their answer, instead of actually caring about what ails America. Be crass, be rude, be violent. That's their answer. But whatever you do, call it dark woke. It's cool. It won't work. It won't work. But I'm going to enjoy watching them try. Back in 2.5. All right, folks, Niagara Falls, New York, beautiful, beautiful place. Just a spectacle to be seen. It's just awestruck when you see it. It's incredible. I love that stuff. Well, my next guest, a very, very interesting person. I really, really am looking forward to this interview. She's a political strategist and campaign advisor who was a Democrat but could no longer stay on the left. She made the switch to the Republican Party and now fights against the evils of those bad Democrats. Happy to welcome Lindy Lee. And Lindy, good to have you. I got to tell you, you're a fascinating character to me. You're so sweet. You're so nice. You have this really nice voice, so sweet. You talk to me like we're pals. But and the reason why you're here is because we've been on podcasts together, and I just don't trust you, my friend. I don't. You were a lifelong Democrat, but now, and since Trump was elected, you say you've been MAGA all along. Please explain to my audience.
Well, I don't think. Oh, thank you for having me. I don't think I've ever said I was MAGA all along. By the way, I've been conservative Democrat this entire time. I went to war with AOC 5 years ago. I don't know if you know about my history, but I've been warring against the leftists like my entire life.
Well, Lindy, listen. This is not going to be a getcha. I'm not here to ambush you or anything, but it's also not going to be a softball here. I mean, you say you're a conservative Democrat, but you called yourself a tree-hugging progressive with ideas like legalizing weed, and you wanted a national jobs guarantee.
I want to say in 2018. I ran for Congress, and that year there were a lot of purity tests, and they asked us all the way down, are you any of these things? And I can't speak to every questionnaire that my campaign and I filled out. I don't think I even personally filled out all of them. They probably answered yes because we wanted to win a Democratic primary. The general election really didn't matter in Philadelphia. So I mean, those purity tests, those ideological tests are part of the reasons why I couldn't remain in the party, because they were trying to out-socialist each other. And the party during the age of Obama was lurching to the left. When I started out in the party, it wasn't like this at all. When I was a teenager interning for my congressman, the Democratic Party seems sensible to me. Like it was in 2008 or before, before Obama was elected, it meant caring about the middle class, everyday values. I grew up in suburban Pennsylvania. Wasn't a radical. It still is in a radical area. It's known as the Collier Counties, Pennsylvania.
So, but you yet you stayed a Democrat, Lindy, and you ran for Congress as a Democrat, and most of your policies were leaning, if not leaning them, or outright progressive
Eric,
ideas.
You have to understand that I was in a cult this entire time. I live in an extremely liberal city. I've been here all my life, essentially. I went to an extremely liberal university. I ran for Congress as an extremely, as a Democrat, because it was extremely blue area.
You're saying at heart you were more conservative, yet you continued because it was politically expedient, because you were a mercenary. I mean, maybe you're a political mercenary wherever the better paycheck comes, that's where you go.
I came on your show in completely good faith. Like,
yes.
I don't want to go through another communist struggle section like we did in February. I honestly came because I wanted to have a cordial conversation
Lindy,
with you.
Listen. You hit me up, and I absolutely am for this, but I can't.
And I didn't ask to come on your show. You asked me, so I came in good faith. I didn't come here to get ambushed. I justify.
I'm not ambushing you, Lindy. I'm not ambushing. I'll tell you what. I see it differently how this interview came about, but listen, that's not what this is about. Let's do it this way. Instead of you feeling ambushed, which I'm not trying to do, I just want to know, and again, we had this discussion at least once that I called you a Trojan horse because I'm not sure you're truly conservative or not. So let's just do this now. As of right now, I'm going to go through a series of ideas, and you tell me where you are on those ideas. And then I'll ask you when you came to this conclusion. Immigration.
I could even make it easier for you. Far right.
Do you believe Trump is right deporting all illegals? Certainly the ones who are criminal illegals, but all illegals.
Absolutely. Eric, I'm so far right on most issues. I'm probably more far right than I'm so far right on issues like immigration and so.
Were you always there, Lindy?
I am so far right. It's I have one issue that is very dear to my heart, and that's environment. And that's what kept me as a Democrat for more than a decade. I care deeply about the environment. I'm very Theodore Roosevelt in that regard. I really want to safeguard our heritage, our landmarks. And
should trans men be allowed to participate in women's sports?
Absolutely. They sicken me. Absolutely not. And they're not, you mean trans women?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Or either. Yes. Trans women. Right.
I think they're unwell.
It's confusing to those of us.
Exactly. You mean trans women. I actually don't, women in quotation marks. I just want to make it more simpler for you. I'm far right on everything.
But how long have you been this way is my question. And by the way, Lindy, if you were honest with me and said, you know what, I was wrong, and you guys have been right all along. My problem is that you spent the last 20 years.
I was hiding myself. I wasn't wrong. This is
so
who
you're
I've
asking
been.
us or
and
me.
The last time I tried to come out, I tried to tell you, and 5 years ago, there's a public record of me trying to come out. AOC canceled me. There was a smear campaign. They tried to destroy my life. I did this before. This isn't out of nowhere. There's a Vanity Fair article. It was on the front page when I did this 5 years ago.
Lindy, you called Trump a serial rapist. I'm sorry, serial rapist. You called him a serial rapist. Were you under some sort of Democrat kabuki?
I apologize again to you, Eric.
Well, no,
I honestly came here to have I've had this conversation again and again. I'm happy to again, but there are a lot of interviews just like this one. If you want to have another struggle session, then fine. But I've been through this already.
So here's my issue. My issue is this, Lindy.
Again.
My issue is this. I like you. I think you're a good person, right? I just not sure that you're not doing this now because Trump won and beat the two people you worked for the past 7 or 8 years.
I don't want a job in the administration. I don't want anything.
No, but you're on media. Let me guess.
You?
You've been on Fox. You're on CNN. You're an interesting character that you've abandon the Democrats
Fox
if you
doesn't
really
pay
have.
me, and I haven't been on CNN, but I'm not getting paid by anybody. How does this benefit me at all?
I don't know. So
how
what are you
does it
doing?
benefit me coming on your show and subjecting me to myself to this? It's bad for my mental health. How does this benefit me at all?
Well, I'm not trying
to
to lean. I'm just trying to understand you. What's your game? What's your avenue? What's the play?
This is me. I'm free for the first time in my life. I can tell the truth. Okay. I'm not afraid anymore. I mean, they already canceled me already. What are they going to do? Cancel me again? I've been canceled like 30 times.
They can't.
And
if that's true, Lindy, if that's true, welcome to the party. Where have you been? You know, what took you so long to get here?
I've been in a cult, Eric. I've been trying to explain to you that I live in the city of Philadelphia where the voter registration is 8-1, and you basically are ostracized if you're anything but a flaming liberal.
Listen, not that. I'll take... You know, I was misguided. I was young. I lived in New York for 30 years, and it's probably worse than the 8-1 ratio against conservatives. It was a horribly liberal, awful place, progressive place to live. And I still maintained my conservatism. Sorry.
Yeah, you worked at Fox, though. The circles that I ran as, not only was I a rank and file Democrat, they made me a leader at a young age. Do you know how hard it is to leave? And I did buy into the Trump derangement syndrome. I will acknowledge that. Like, I completely bought into the orange man bad thing. Completely. I bought into Hunter Biden.
Let's do this. We only a couple minutes left. So what do you think of Trump now? What do you think of MAGA now?
I'm very, very happy to see what he's doing on immigration. Very, very happy. I'm glad that Doge is going out there and just basically slashing and burning. This is what we need, because I'm a fiscal conservative. I'm again, as I mentioned, I'm conservative on everything except the environment. The environment is such a huge issue for me. I even wrote my college thesis on it. I'm very happy that he has the guts to do what he's doing. I'm a little queasy about equity markets only because I'm a huge investor, but hopefully, this is the reindustrializing that we need. Maybe this is the short-term gain that we need for the long-term gain. I'm willing to give him a chance on that.
All right, we're going to have more with Lindy after the break. Stick around, it gets even better. All right, let's get right back into that interview with Lindy Lee, and pay close attention. There's quite a few revelations here. Broke some news. Watch. As someone who holds one of the MAGA torches, I welcome you. I'm going to be conservative and say I hope you're being honest with us, because we would like to have people like you who've seen the Democrat Party for what it is.
Eric, do you realize that I would be such a huge weapon for you guys? Like, I know exactly where the bodies are buried, and I'm revealing all of that in the coming months. Like, people will be shocked to hear what happened.
Can I ask you this, since you mentioned that? So you were there during a lot of the Biden presidency and an advisor and high level. How come you didn't say anything that, when we were all saying he's demented, he's putting the country at risk? Why didn't people like you, who were, if you're telling me you're honest that you were deep down conservative, but you were in a cult, why couldn't you just let someone know that the man is declining?
I did, and I got exiled last year, mid 2024, they exiled me for saying it. So I did, and it's in the public record. I even went on Fox News Sunday to say it on July 21st. I did.
Right, well, listen,
that's why they excommunicated me before the election. I got banned from the White House, by the way.
What was the real relationship between Joe Biden and Kamala Harris? What was it like behind the scenes?
It was like a shotgun marriage after she ascended to the top of the ticket. But now they absolutely hate each other. And most of the hating is actually done by Jill Biden.
Most of what was done? I'm sorry. Most of what?
Most of the hating is done by Jill Biden, Lady McBiden.
Was she?
She hates Harris with a passion.
Lady Macbeth. Was she the effective president, Jill Biden, for the last maybe year?
Absolutely. That's something else that I leaked. She was the power behind the throne. She was the throne. After the debate, Hunter was in all the White House top level meetings, without a security clearance. I didn't feel good about it. Did you? I mean, that was part of the reason why I did speak up, because it was just absolutely egregious that we had a drug addict.
Was that cocaine Hunter's?
I can't speak to that. Everything that I say that I know for sure, but I can't speak to that specific bag. I mean, I would not be surprised.
This is
but if it were Hunter's, it would be empty, right?
This is I don't know, unless he was holding it for later.
That is true, yeah.
So Jill was effectively the commander in chief, so to speak. I mean, weren't aides upset with that? Wasn't Tony Blinken upset with that? Did no one think to speak up? Did no one decide to talk to, I don't know, maybe the Senate, since Chuck Schumer held the Senate majority?
I think people were just looking out for their own skins. They saw Jill as their path to power, like Steve Ricchetti and Anita Dunn and Mike Donnellan, Anthony Bernal. These are the people running the show. It's not in their self-interest to expose Jill when Jill is their meal ticket.
Was there any discussion? Was there any discussion about the border, knowing that the number is 200, 250,000, 300,000 illegals will come across, and that they weren't really doing anything other than sending Mayorkas out there saying that the border's fine?
That made me so bloody sick, by the way, especially since I'm a naturalized immigrant. That's one of the issues that I brought up, and they call me a bigot because I care about borders. Like my family and I, we came here like 30 years ago, the right way, through JFK Airport. We waited. My dad was a doctor. He ended up at Harvard Medical School. Like everything he did contributed to the success of America. Meanwhile, we have like millions of people coming to the border. I feel very strongly about this. And when I raise such issues, they call me a bigot.
Internally?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I said, this is a doomed campaign if you don't address this issue.
Lindy, who would do this? Who's like a top level aide or just folks out of a bar?
Not only aides. I brought up this issue with top level campaign officials. I brought up the Biden age issue. I'll give you a name, Ken Martin. He's now the chair of the party. I brought up this issue 2 to 3 years ago. I said Biden is too old. Actually, I said it as a question because I didn't want to offend him, or you can't speak up against Biden in that cult. But I said, don't you find this a little bit problematic? Like, don't you think maybe he is in cognitive decline? This is about 3 years ago. And I remember Wendell Pierce from The Wire, that guy, the shit guy, like that guy, he was standing right next to me. And my brother was there and he answered me in front of them. He made me feel stupid. And he's like, oh, don't worry about it. It's nothing.
What do you know about?
Completely gaslit me.
What do you know about the absolute disaster that the Afghanistan withdrawal was? And did they realize how serious of mistakes they were making before or after?
That was a moment. That was the beginning of the end. I think that was the end of the honeymoon. And the moment he looked at his watch, do you remember at the
transfer, dignified transfer? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That was just absolutely awful. I think it was stunning. That was actually one of the moments where I had to be honest. I really liked Joe Biden. I'm sorry. He was very kind to me and my family. I was misled. He was nice to me because I was the money. I'm realizing that now. It took me a while to realize that.
You were fundraising. You were fundraising for him.
Yeah. And by the way, I wasn't paid. I'm just one of those rich donors. People think I'm a disgruntled employee. No, I'm not. I'm one of those people, campaign bundlers, what we do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're held in high regard and high esteem.
Right.
Kamala, you raised money for Kamala Harris.
And didn't have a choice because they didn't give us a choice. It happened within 24 hours.
What happened?
And so everyone had to fall in line. And I wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt. I do want to say that. I wanted to give her a chance. And then she hid from the media for a month. And I quickly realized that this woman just is not capable.
So that period after Trump, basically exposed Joe Biden as having lost, his facilities, his cognitive decline in Biden. That period where they're trying to figure out what to do. How influential, how much input did Barack Obama have in the process?
Much.
And did he pick Kamala Harris? Because there are reports that saying he didn't want her.
No, he didn't at all. He didn't at all. I was actually I actually was part of the effort to remove Biden. That's, because he just wouldn't go. And
how are you part of the effort?
Stop the money.
How do you?
I'm sorry.
So the powers that be, I assume the Obamas, maybe some of the Clintons were involved, and they just, or is it Clooney? Is it the celebrity class? How did they get your award? How did they get to you to say, help us convince Joe to leave?
No, they didn't need to ask me. It was my duty as an American.
But my question is, who was
Trust me, this is not something I needed to be inspired to do. I was freaking out. Like, there's no way this guy should be running the country, A, B, running for president. And I had been saying it prior. I told you like 2 or 3 years ago, I'd brought it up to party chieftains and they treated me like I was stupid. And so I didn't need any motivating at all to speak up. I had been speaking out. And yeah, I mean, since mid 2024, I've been banned from the Biden White House because I spoke out. Okay. So they treated me like I was some crack dealer. And
how would Barack assume only maybe Michelle? How would the Obamas or Barack Obama? How would he exert influence in that process of removing Joe, and then therefore the decision to go with Kamala if it wasn't his idea?
It wasn't his idea. It was they basically had to because she was Black. But yeah, going back to your question, he exerted influence in many different regards. The most obvious one is that his people ran the White House and his people ran the Harris campaign. Who was running the the Biden campaign? It's basically one entity. But the person running the campaign was Jen O'Malley Dillon, who is an Obama acolyte. And then they helicoptered David Plouffe in, who was an Uber executive. Mm-hmm. So David Plouffe was running the show. And then you had people like Tony West, Kamala Harris's brother-in-law, helicoptered in as well.
These are all Clinton and Obama originals that they brought in to try and fix things, I guess. This is fascinating.
Absolutely.
Lindy, I got to go, but I want to keep this discussion going. Listen, I hope you don't think it was an ambush. I'm just trying to qualify to make sure, you are who you say you are. You have a book coming out. I want the folks to watch for this book. It's going to be fascinating.
I think after you read your book, there'll be no doubt in your mind where I stand.
What?
I have torched everything. I've risked Eric, I have like no friends left. It's not an exaggeration. I have one person that I love deeply, and that's basically he and I are my entire world. I left everything behind, to tell the truth. So if you think that's not enough, I don't know what to tell you.
Listen, I'm not judging. I'm verifying. Trust but verify, as Ronald.
Yes,
Ronald
and again,
Reagan said.
I'm not asking. I don't want a job in administration. I don't want anything from anybody. So, frankly, there's nothing for me to gain here. So
we'll continue the conversation, Lindy. We'll look for the book and we'll bring it back again. And thank you for your time. Thank you for your time.
You for having me.
And welcome to the right side. And I use that in all senses of the word right.
Thank you so much, Eric.
All right, Lindy. Talk to you again soon. All right, folks. Before we head to break, just want to remind you about the podcast, not the show. Not only the show, we got this show. Of course, we got this show, Rav. It goes on cable, Dish. We also have a podcast and YouTube page. They're both updated daily. Other content than this. Let you hear and show and see different things that we do behind the scenes, some of that stuff, anywhere, anytime. But you got to subscribe. Subscribe. We'll be right back. All right, let's bring in my great friend Steve Bannon, because I'm going to learn something here right now. And he's with Mike Davis, I do believe. I want to learn something because, Bannon, you were listening to that interview, that was a long interview with it, 22 minutes. I'm watching the chats, and half the people are pissed off at me for being tough on Lindy Lee, and half say, damn, you're right, Bolling. Well, she decided to come over on election night. I mean, what say you, my friend? I have to trust but verify, don't I?
Hold it, hang on for a second. First off, you got to delineate the chats here. The Rumble chat's always a little rougher than all other chats. You got to make sure what chat. Yeah, man, the Rumble chat comes in hard. High sticking. Eric, Is your last name down in Mar-a-Lago Eric Stratton? Because I thought you were the pledge chairman to all the oligarchs that all came at 11 o'clock on a night. You're picking on poor Lindy Lee, and here you are. You're broing out with Zuckerberg and Bezos. You know, you're doing the full flex. What are you doing? Why are you picking on Lindy Lee?
I am not.
And you're letting the bros, letting the tech bros go.
I'm not. First of all, I'm not palling around with any of them. You know, I point the finger at Howard Lutnick, the billionaire who I think is going to ruin our economy. I've never met Elon. No, I'm saying she came. Listen, I agree with you. All the folks and that was my point. The people who've come over who've been hardcore Democrats for 30, 40 years and come over and now all of a sudden they're holding they want me to light their MAGA torch with my torch. I don't want my fingerprints anywhere near those. Call me crazy.
We do want converts, as you know. We love converts, but they ought to be sitting in the back couple of rows and hitting the second collection with something big, right, to prove they're truly converts. But no, I don't trust any of them that are converted. The Damascene moment was 11 o'clock when Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin fell. I don't trust them, but I'm kind of glad they're on board, and we got to figure out.
You know what the good news was from that
interview? I thought you were actually very gentlemanly, Eric Bolling.
If you didn't. The first part of it, Steve, I was pretty hard on her. I point blank told her, I think you're a mercenary. I think you're looking for the paycheck. Oh, I'm not. Anyway, but I think what the news that came out of that was the extent to which Jill Biden, and she was behind the scenes, Steve, the extent to which, and Mike, the extent to which Jill Biden was actually running the country for a good portion of the presidency. Scary.
Which, by the way, as you remember, Eric, nobody reported. Everybody knew about. We would talk about it on Rav a lot, but nobody would, none of the mainstream media would ever report that. And to me, you know, Eric, when you talk about that, I want to know where our investigation of all that is over DOJ and FBI. You know, the commander-in-chief was certainly not up to the task. Milley knew it, the Joint Chiefs knew it, Pentagon knew it, National Security Council knew it. His fiduciary responsibility, as Mike Davis tells me, not the unitary theory of the executive, but his Article 2 powers as commander-in-chief, which the courts are fighting. We have Mike here today to talk. He couldn't do. So, Eric, don't you agree we should have a formal investigation
100%.
Of the last 2 years of Biden's administration?
100 billion%. Very thorough. Absolutely. 100 billion%. That should be job number one, because that threatened to take the country down as much as anything that they are pointing a finger at Trump for doing. I'll let you guys go and jump on it, and love being with you. I did learn. See, I learned something. I learned that the Rumble chat is tougher than some of the other chats on our
The Rumble chat, man, the Rumble chat is men only, although there's a lot of women in there. High sticking is allowed.
High sticking. Got it. You're against the boards. Expect one of those Rumble folks to hit you, right? Got it. Take it away,
Thank you, sir.
friends.
Appreciate you, Eric.
See you tomorrow.